It's a scene change for the series, so let's get a vibe change and talk about the one thing definitely working for the Orlando Magic and why that is so important. Positive vibes only today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 24th. It is probably April 25th, 2025 by the time you listen to this. My name is Philip Prosper-Nike. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since 2012. Been a while. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, while games 1 and 2 had their moments of depression, today is positive vibes only. Mostly positive vibes because we're still down 2-0 in the series and there's a lot to fix. Why Paolo Banchero continues to confirm his stardom, what Franz Wagner is showing and not showing, and the keys to Game 3 coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's keep things straight. In most 2-7 matchups, you're not expecting a lot as the 7 seed. The Boston Celtics are a championship-level team. The Orlando Magic needed and will need supremely good efforts to win in these games. This is a flawed roster. Getting a supremely good effort is not guaranteed. It's not something that you can count on every single night. And so the Magic are still looking for that 48-minute game. They have done some good things through the first 2 games. They have shown that they're not going to be so easy to put away, but they've also shown that they are missing a lot, that there's still a lot more for them to do, a lot more that they need to grab to get ultimately where they want to go. That is undeniable. And as I've said, I don't want to get too far into offseason stuff. We all know it's there. It's the dark cloud hanging over this entire series that the Magic don't have enough to compete with the Boston Celtics. That would be true if this was a second round series, by the way. As disappointing as it might be to be out in the first round again, as disappointing as it might be to lose in 5 games, to potentially get swept. This was the result this season was always going to come to. It's just maybe happening 2 weeks early. And we know and probably always knew what steps this team needs to take. So the loss, as painful as it might be, there will be benefit from this loss. There will be benefit from this series, regardless of what happens next or how this series ultimately ends. There's still a Game 3. We'll talk about that coming up here in a minute. Undoubtedly, though, I think one of the goals for the Magic coming into this series, one of the goals that I had, knowing what a long shot it would be to win the series. I don't think it's such a long shot to win a game. And again, Friday's a big day. Friday is the game. If the Magic don't show up Friday, we'll have an episode after Fridays, but this will be our last normal episode, or this will be our last newsletter of the Orlando Magic season while it is still in progress. But one of the things that I wanted to see through the course of this series is confirmation of this team's stars. If we know this is a fatally flawed roster, if we know that this team isn't good enough, it needs to be not good enough because of everyone else. No offense to the Magic supporting cast. No offense to any of those players. We needed confirmation. We needed proof. We needed just a second great playoffs from Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. We needed to exit this series knowing that the pillars, the foundations of this franchise of this team are set. You can swap out role players. It's not as hard as you think it's going to be, as daunting as it might seem. And the Magic still have to be smart. It's not like they get a billion cracks at this thing. But the Magic needed to exit this series knowing they have two primetime players. Last year, Paolo Banchero put on a true show in the playoffs. His series against the Cleveland Cavaliers was simply outstanding. 27 points per game, 45.6% shooting from the floor, 40% shooting from three, 51% effective field goal percentage, 75.5% from the foul line on 7 free throw attempts per game, 8.6 rebounds, 4 assists per game, and an additional 1.7 stocks per game, all for good measure. He had 4.6 turnovers per game, but with a lot of responsibility in his first playoff series, Paolo Banchero was clearly pointed towards stardom. And yes, even if you account for the injury, even with the struggles that he had in the first month coming back from the injury, the playoffs catapulted him to new heights. This year, averaging 25.9 points per game, a career high, shooting 45.2% from the floor, considering how much he struggled at coming out of the injury, just a few percentage points worse than he was last year on 19.8 field goal attempts, taking 2 more field goal attempts per game than he did last year. 32% three-point shooting, again, understanding his struggles, but up to 5.9 threes per game. A 50% effective field goal percentage, a career high. 72.7% free throw shooting on a career high 8.4 free throw attempts per game, accounting for what is a career high 55.1% true shooting percentage. Every number for Paolo Banchero continues to trend up. And he has once again stepped his game up in the playoffs. He has once again shown us that he is a star among stars in the NBA. With through 2 games, so smallish sample size, but through 2 games in this postseason against the elite Boston Celtics defense, he's averaging 34 points per game, shooting 50% from the floor on 26 field goal attempts per game, not shy about taking shots. Shooting 46.2% from 3, that is 6 for 13 from three. Struggling from the foul line, I'll grant you that. 10 for 17 from the foul line. He missed 5 free throws in game 2, but a 55.8% effective field goal percentage and a true shooting percentage of 57.2%. Take that for data, you data freaks. On top of that, he's averaging 10 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists per game, 2 stocks per game, and only 2 turnovers per game. Even against this elite Boston Celtics defense, even with the ball in his hands, even more this year than he had it in his hands last year. Last year, he had a 33.9 usage rate in the playoffs. This year, it's 35.4%. If anything, the biggest complaint that anyone has about Paolo Banchero right now is that the Magic have had to ask him to do so much. It's that Paolo literally has the weight of this team on his shoulders, with Franz Wagner carrying a significant weight as well. And honestly, if that's the conclusion that we draw from these playoffs, is that the Magic desperately need to get Paolo and Franz some offensive support, as obvious as that should have been after last season, that's probably okay. We will probably live with that conclusion. We will probably accept that conclusion and say, fine, that's good. It's not good, but you get what I'm saying. Paolo Banchero has simply been an MVP. He's playing at an MVP level through these first 2 games against this elite Boston Celtics team. It's not even just the raw counting stats. Advanced stat lovers, cover your ears, because Paolo is shattering the notion that he is not advanced stat starling, that the Magic are somehow better without him. In these playoffs, the Orlando Magic have a 106.3 offensive rating, a 120.5 defensive rating. Magic's defense has not been as good as you might think, and a minus 14.2 net rating. With Paolo Banchero on the floor, they have a 110.2 offensive rating. That is 4.1 points per 100. That's a 3.9 points per 100 possessions better than their overall average, and the best offensive rate, on-court offensive rating on the team for players that are in the rotation. Goga Batadze is better, but he played 9 minutes in 2 games, like legit rotation players. The Magic's 115.8 defensive rating with Banchero on the floor. Also the best. Also only trailing Corey Joseph, among rotation players. And it's 4.7 points per 100 possessions better than the team's overall average. Among rotation players, the minus 5.6 net rating with Paolo Banchero on the floor is the best. The best. Quite simply, the Magic are not functioning when Banchero is off the floor. And I got those numbers to prove it too. Paolo Banchero was sat for only 10 minutes in this series. Just 10 minutes in 2 games. When he sits, the Magic have a 61.9 offensive rating and a 152.6 defensive rating. You don't need to do the math. That's really bad. At this point and in this series, the Magic simply cannot function without Banchero because he is a tough shot maker. He is everything that you want from a primary option. And again, if the only thing we learned from this series are these things, Paolo Banchero is that dude, and he and Franz Wagner need help. Those might be obvious, but now they are undeniable. Look, we all have faith in Paolo Banchero. You're not listening to a Magic podcast if you don't have faith in Paolo Banchero. But it was not guaranteed that Paolo would match his playoff performance. It's always the same thing. Anyone can have a good game. Anybody can have a good game. It takes a lot to be consistent year over year, opponent to opponent, game to game. If the Magic leave this series knowing only one thing, that Paolo Banchero is a superstar, it's not an A+, but it's a big step for the organization. It is a big step for the team. And I'm here to tell you through 2 games, this is who Paolo Banchero is. Playoff Paolo is a real thing. He continues to elevate his game, step up to the cause, step up to the moment, and give his team the best chance it has to win. And I can tell you this, he does not care about any of those numbers I just said. Does not care a wink about it. He wants to win. His frustration in post games, his kind of short answers, his searching for answers for himself and for this team, tell you all you need to know about him. That help may not come this series. It's going to have to come in the offseason because it is time to buy in and believe in Paolo Banchero, superstar. Franz Wagner has also shown out, but why his biggest struggle is the biggest ceiling on this team. We'll talk about, yes, his shooting coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, traveling for playoff games, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. With Monarch Money, you realize just how much you're spending on food delivery so you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps or a spreadsheet, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Paolo Banchero is obviously a big part of the equation. And again, there is very little to assail about Paolo's performance this postseason. Look, he is as disheartened and frustrated as everyone else is and sitting there saying, I'm doing my job. What are y'all doing? That's not Paolo. And I don't sense that from Paolo. He's not detached from his teammates. He wants this to work. So many of these guys want this to work. And, at the end of the day, there might be a decision that I know what's best. I know what I have to do. And you got to know the right times and spots to do that. And that's part of growing up. But Paolo is only part of this conversation. Franz Wagner is the other part. And again, 2 games, small sample. We still got a little bit of this series left. Game 3 is a big game on Friday. We're going to get to that here in a minute. Franz Wagner had a lot of questions entering this year's playoffs. Last season, his scoring went down in the playoffs. He had a very uneven playoff series, averaging 18.9 points per game, shooting 40.8% from the floor, 26.5% from 3, 45.1 effective field goal percentage. For all the stat nerds that, and I say that lovingly because I'm also a stat nerd. For all the analytics people who just look at the numbers and don't understand Paolo's greatness or understand why Paolo is so important to this team, the playoffs seem to, I don't want to say confirm, but the playoffs seem to paint a different picture. Now, look, the Magic don't get to 7 games without Franz Wagner. Before we get to the next part of this conversation, he was huge in Game 4. He was huge in Game 6. To define his entire playoffs by his struggles in Game 7 are unfair to him and just simply an easy narrative. However, as we talked about all summer long, especially during the Olympics when he was back in these pressure games, that is a monkey he had to get off his back. That was a story he needed to shake. And these playoffs were as important as anything else to get Franz back into the star track, to prove that Franz isn't just the sidekick, but a playoff performer too. And again, he had his moments in the playoffs. So I don't want to take that away from him. After averaging 24.2 points per game, shooting 46.3% from the floor, another difficult year shooting from 3 at 29.5%, a 50.7 effective field goal percentage as his usage and shots went way up from 15.2 last year to 19.4 this year. Franz has largely carried that over into the playoffs. We are not seeing anything different from Franz Wagner. Maybe we want to see him elevate his game a little bit, but he has provided what the Magic needed and what Paolo Banchero should need to be a superstar that wins on the playoff stage. Franz Wagner is averaging 24 points per game. He's shooting 45.5% from the floor on 22 field goal attempts. He's 20 for 44. He's got a 47.7% effective field goal percentage. We'll explain that in a minute. In fact, we'll explain that now. Franz is scoring with pretty much relative ease. When he gets downhill, gets to the paint, gets to a spot, can get the flip shot going, he is going to score. Because he is shooting exceptionally well on 2-pointers. So far, he is shooting 18 for 31 on 2-point field goal attempts, 58.1%. 18 for 31. He shot 53.5% on 13.5 of these field goals in the regular season. He's up to 15.5% and shooting better. Franz Wagner is putting to rest a lot of playoff demons. This series will end the narrative that Franz does not show up in the playoffs. I have talked to so many Celtics writers and so many Celtics podcasters, and the consistent opinion through the first 2 games of this series are that the Magic are going to be a problem. They will be a problem for the Celtics. Paolo and Franz are those dudes. The Magic just don't have enough help for them. And again, that is the issue. That is issue number 1. The Magic have to upgrade the offensive talent around Paolo and Franz. They need another guy who can attack off the dribble. They need more reliable shooting. Jalen Suggs coming back helps. Mo Wagner coming back helps. No doubt about it. Those are 2 major, quote-unquote, acquisitions that are going to happen this offseason. But ultimately, and I think we all feel and we all see this, ultimately the Magic's ability to take the next step is going to come down to their ability to spread the floor no matter who has the ball. Paolo Banchero has made huge strides as a 3-point shooter. He may not be the greatest spot-up shooter. He may be a low 30 shooter his entire career. But that's going to be enough because of the threat that he is and the way that once the Magic do get more shooting and more creation, they'll be able to use him within an offense. The way Franz Wagner plays and the way the Magic's lineup is ultimately going to shake out, there is an undeniable ceiling on this team while Franz Wagner is struggling this much from three. None of us have answers for Franz Wagner's threes. Franz, frankly, is at least not willing yet to share any answers on what's happened to his three-point shot. After averaging 35.4% shooting and 36.1% shooting from three in his first two seasons, he shot 28.1% from three and then 29.5% on a career high 5.9 attempts per game from three this season. That's improvement. That's small, perhaps meaningless, but yes, technically improvement. If Franz Wagner is going to be a volume three-point shooter, and in this day and age in the NBA to be an all-star, to be the kind of star that the Magic need Franz Wagner to be, he is going to have to score on all three levels. He has greatly improved his mid-range jumper. He's improved his willingness to take mid-range jumpers. And that is all a positive sign that, yes, the three-point shot is that next phase. But everybody is starting to notice how much of a drain Franz's three-point struggles are. For as good as he shot in the paint, 18 for 31 again, he is 2 for 13 from three in this series from three. That's 15.4%. If you're going to take 6.5 threes per game, you better make at least 30% of them. If you're going to take 6.5 threes per game, you better make 1 out of 3 of them. That's what, 1.5, 1.5? The Magic, if the Magic are going to win a game in this series, if the Magic are going to eventually grow into a championship team, it is unavoidable that Franz Wagner has to make shots. That Franz Wagner has to take this step up. And none of us have an answer. Like, honestly, I can't give you a good answer for why Franz has suddenly struggled from three. We all see it. There is a little bit of a hitch in his shot. I sort of describe what Franz has done to his shot and the way Franz's shot has looked since coming back from the oblique injury in January as to me, it looks like a corrective golf swing. Like, I know when I played golf, when I do my backswing, I'd go way off plane. I'd go like way out here, if you're watching on the YouTube, like way outside instead of straight up. And it looks like that's what Franz is trying to do, to kind of force his elbow and force his frame and I call it the box, like I usually, like when I'm shooting, I would say like no elbows out, like keep your hands in the box, and go straight up. It feels like Franz is trying to correct himself to stay in that box or whatever the mindset is. I don't know if that's a mental thing. I don't know if it's a process thing. It certainly feels like a mental thing because there are times when his shot looks really good, and there are times when that hitch is overly pronounced, especially on wide open threes, especially when he has time to kind of think and line himself up. You can kind of see him thinking about it. When he kind of shoots more naturally and instinctually, it's fine. It's better. I won't say it's good. It's better. Franz Wagner's a max player. I don't think the Magic are regretting his max contract one bit. But this is going to be the difference between the Magic being a really nice team in the Eastern Conference and being a title contender. Plain and simple. This is the ceiling among many ceilings the Magic have to break through. If the Magic are trapped under a glass ceiling, there are several pains and pressure points they're going to need to hit to break through that. Adding more shooting, adding more creation, a point guard are all part of that pressure point. So is Franz Wagner developing a more consistent three-point shot, or at least a reliable three-point shot. Again, I think with his usage and the threat of his scoring, if you add some more creation, if you add some more shooting, him and Paolo are probably okay at 33, 34%. If you get another shooter that's at 40%, if Jalen Suggs is at 37, 38, 39%, I think there's a way forward. But offensively, as much as anything, the Magic need more reliable shooting. They need the threat of that shooting, and they need everybody on the floor to be a threat. Right now, there are, as everyone can guess, too many zeros on offense. Too many guys who are not providing on offense. And Franz, for all the good that he does and how important he is and how well he has played this series has come down to three-point shooting. Like, it's a math problem. And Boston and Cleveland are not going anywhere anytime soon. Those are heavy three-point shooting teams. The Magic can do all the tricks they want to try and get them to stop shooting threes. But they're going to have to make some threes themselves to compete with these teams. And so Franz, as good as he's played, this is the ceiling he must break this offseason. The Orlando Magic trail in their series 2-0 despite the efforts of their two-star players. What are the keys to winning Game 3? We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a moment. So here we are, Game 3. The pressure of every series always ramps up the deeper into the series you go. Down 2-0 coming home, the Orlando Magic are a surprisingly confident bunch. I think very similar to Game 1. Not that Boston didn't win the game. I want to be very clear. Boston won the game. They were the better team. They deserved to win. I think Orlando entering this series is essentially okay if they lose because they miss shots. If it comes down to we played hard, which they think they did on Wednesday, and we defended as best we could and we missed shots and Boston made shots, that's just the kind of loss they have to accept. And in some respects, that's what Game 2 was. Like, Orlando shot 7 for 27 from 3. Boston was 12 for 37. Boston didn't make a ton of threes, but Orlando just missed too many shots to stay in the race. I think ultimately what Orlando's frustrated by in games 1 and 2 are the mistakes they make. Again, I want to repeat this. Orlando's making mistakes, leaving the door open, and Boston's taking advantage of them. Boston deserves to win these games. This is not what I'm not taking much away from Boston. Orlando can't be the team to give them opportunities, though. And whether it was the turnovers in Game 1 or the free throws in Game 2 or the offensive rebounds in Game 2, Orlando is doing things that are completely preventable that Boston is punishing and taking advantage of them for, which, of course, Boston should be doing. And Orlando is not forcing nearly the same kind of mistakes. The Celtics had a bad shooting night. Orlando couldn't take advantage of that because they couldn't get rebounds. Boston's not turning the ball over. There are few opportunities for Orlando to kind of create advantages. And the whole talk about pace and speeding things up is a way to try and force an advantage. It's almost it's not a gimmick. It is important for this offense, but it's more of a way to try and keep Boston on their toes and not let them settle in, to get them a little bit uncomfortable. And look, the Magic's physical defense does its job. It does its work. It gives this team a chance. But there's obviously so much work to do. And Orlando can't afford to make the repeated mistakes that they've been making. This game, this series, is so much about that precision. The Celtics are playing at a championship level, even without Jason Tatum, who's doubtful once again for Friday's game. I would not expect him to play Friday. Jrue Holiday is now questionable with a hamstring injury. Hamstrings are notoriously tricky, but I would expect Jrue Holiday to play on Friday. But that door is still wide open for the Magic to make this a series. That door is still open if the Magic can play well, if the Magic can make some shots to get back into the series and do what they did last year. Like I mentioned, Orlando's got a little bit of confidence. I wouldn't call it confidence. Orlando is not panicking down 2-0. They were down 2-0 last year to Cleveland. Lost both of those games in very similar fashion. They lost Game 1 because they weren't ready for the playoff stage. They got hit with a big run and couldn't really climb all the way back. Very much the same thing happened in Game 2. Game 1 and Game 2 against Boston. And look, Boston is a better team than Cleveland was last year. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But Orlando took 2 heavy punches and didn't quite know how to respond. They came home where they were dominant and found themselves and found their groove. And I think it's silly to count on that happening again. I think it's silly to expect that to automatically happen, especially because Boston fans travel. There will be a fair amount of green in the building. Don't be upset about it. It's just that small market versus big market deal. Historical team versus team establishing its history still. There's going to be green in the building. It was that way in 2010. It was that way in 2009. That's not changing. It's not going to be the full-throated blast for the Magic as it was in previous years. Again, I would also mention Boston is a lot better than Cleveland. Cleveland was a team that still succumbed to their worst habits and made mistakes. And while Orlando has done some things to force Boston into its bad habits, Boston is, I can tell you watching these two games, Boston is such a more precise team. They are a championship level team. The Cavs last year were not. I think the Cavs this year are. Don't get angry at me, Cavs fans. Last year, they were not Boston's level. This year, they might be. We're going to maybe find out in a couple weeks in the conference finals. Orlando has to be good. And they weren't, again, they simply weren't good enough to win those games in Boston. To me, the key to this game, just like Oklahoma City's doing to Memphis as I'm recording this, they got to hit them first. And it's going to be the same at the start of the third quarter, too. The Magic have to hit them first. The Magic cannot be the team that gets pushed around. They cannot be the team that has to adjust and call timeout. They have to play from ahead. And all the energy from the Magic fans, all the energy from the Kia Center, they've got to channel that into a spark. They've got to channel that into the thing that propels them into the lead. The Magic must play from ahead. Simple as that. The Magic must play from ahead. And honestly, I think they've got to do it early. Get the crowd into a frenzy. Quiet the opposing fans in the building. Don't let them get energy because they'll be loud, and they should be. If the Celtics play well, they should be loud. It's the playoffs. Be loud. The Magic have to establish themselves first. And, you know, Kristaps Porzingis said this after the game on Wednesday. The Celtics weren't going to let the Magic punk them. That's what he said. He took the elbow in stride, had his WWE moment. The Magic can't let the Celtics punk them. Like, plain and simple. Like I hate all these squishy words. I hate the soft talk. I hate the hard talk. I hate all that. This is not quantifiable. It's silly. But the Magic got to push back. And it starts from the opening tip. It starts with an intensity and an energy from the opening tip. There is nothing to leave in the chamber right now. You lose this game, no team in NBA history has ever come back from 3-0. You lose Friday night, and Sunday looks a lot bleaker. Sunday looks a lot tougher. It is a lot harder to survive, even at home, knowing you're down 3-0. Now, we've seen the Magic do this against the Celtics back in 2010. Beautiful night, or not a beautiful night. We saw the Magic do this on the road in 2010. Jameer Nelson ain't walking through that door, though, to save them in overtime. The Magic have to treat this as their elimination game. If they want this season to continue, they must win Friday, and it has to start from the opening tip. It has to start from the beginning. The Magic have to flip that script, and frankly, if there is a chance for the Magic to run away with the win, especially with all the injuries Boston has, this is it. There's no holding back. The crowd isn't going to be against you unless you let it be against you. Orlando has to be the more aggressive team, get rewarded for their physicality, and take care of their business. If the Magic want this to go to five games, at least it starts from the jump Friday. They got to fight back and not let Boston roll them over with their maddening efficiency. Boston's good. They're not going to roll over either. Boston played with a desperation like they were down 1-0 on Wednesday. They're going to play with that desperation again. This is an experienced team. They know the drill. They know the job. They want out of this series too. They want this series done as quickly as possible so they can get healthy and get ready for the next stage. If the Magic want to survive, it starts at 7:15 because ESPN takes forever to get into their games. That's going to do it for me, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, you can, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himmel, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them. Still podcast to your podcast enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. For even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter, the one stop for expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free. Plus, as a subscriber, you'll be entered to win one of these 3 amazing prizes: a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card to get tickets to the big game, and a $200 Fanatics gift card to dress the part. It's easy and free to enter. Simply subscribe between now and April 30th, that's coming up next week, to be automatically entered to win. Don't miss a moment of the Magic's playoff run. Join the Locked On Magic newsletter today and experience the playoffs like never before. Subscribe today and enter to win by clicking the link in the description or going to LockedOnDaily.com. That's good, dude, for me, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We will be back tomorrow to check out, to recap the Magic's game against the Boston Celtics, Game 3 at the Kia Center. Be there, be loud, be proud. Going to be a great night at the Kia Center, and hopefully the Magic deliver that much-needed win to make this a series once again. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.